We all know John Winchester died to save Dean, but here's the scary question nobody asks. What if John had lived long enough to meet the angels? Think about it. John already had anger problems and always wanted to be in control. Now imagine angels showing up and telling him he's special, he's chosen, he's important. That's not good news, that's dangerous. John Winchester spent his whole life following orders and giving orders. He was a soldier before he became a hunter. So when heaven comes knocking, asking for someone to say yes to their plan, guess who's first in line? Not Dean, the son who questions everything. It's John, the father who's been waiting his whole life for someone bigger than him to tell him what to do. Here's the thing that makes this really scary. John's death actually saved Dean's soul. But take away that death, let John live, and suddenly everything flips. The Winchester who says yes to Michael isn't the rebellious kid who hates authority. It's the obedient soldier who thinks he's finally getting orders from the ultimate commander. And trust me, that changes absolutely everything about how this war ends. Let's start with how everything changes when John Winchester survives that hospital bed in Season 2. In the original timeline, John makes a deal with the yellow-eyed demon to save Dean's life, then dies from his injuries. But in our timeline, Dean finds another way to save his father. Maybe Bobby arrives with a different ritual, or maybe Sam discovers a healing spell just in time. The point is, John Winchester lives. Now here's where things get interesting. Ruby never gets her claws into Sam because John is there to stop her. You see, Ruby's whole plan depended on the Winchester boys being alone and desperate. She needed Sam to feel lost and angry after losing his father. But with John alive, Sam has his anchor. When Ruby shows up with her sweet talk about helping Sam save Dean from his demon deal, John sees right through her lies. John Winchester has been hunting demons for over 20 years. He knows their tricks, their manipulation tactics. The moment Ruby appears, John doesn't hesitate. He uses the cult, or maybe he traps her in a devil's trap and exorcises her the old-fashioned way. Either way, Ruby dies early, and Sam never touches demon blood. This means Sam stays human, stays pure, and never develops those dangerous psychic powers that made him Lucifer's perfect vessel. But here's the cruel twist of fate. The apocalypse still happens. Lilith still breaks the seals because she doesn't need Sam to do it. She has other demons, other plans. The difference is that now the Winchester family is still together when the angels come calling. Picture this scene. Castile appears in that barn just like he did in the show. But instead of just Dean and Sam, he's facing all three Winchesters. John Winchester, the man who spent decades believing he was fighting a war, suddenly learns there's a bigger war coming. And for the first time in his life, he's not just a soldier. He's being recruited by the generals themselves. The angels tell John about the apocalypse, about Michael needing a vessel, about the grand plan. And here's what makes John different from Dean. John doesn't question authority the same way. Dean rebels, Dean fights back, Dean says, "Screw destiny." But John sees divine purpose. John sees the ultimate mission. When Michael first approaches Dean in our timeline, Dean refuses. He's seen what angels really are: manipulative, cold, willing to sacrifice humans for their war. But John hasn't been burned by the angels yet. When Michael comes to John, he doesn't see a controlling monster. He sees what he's always wanted: a commander worth following. Michael tells John, "You were chosen before you were born. Your bloodline, your family, your suffering, it all led to this moment. You can end the war. You can save the world." And John Winchester, who's spent his entire adult life fighting monsters and losing people he loves, finally sees a way to win. Not just a hunt, not just a battle, but the war itself. So when Michael asks for permission to possess him, John doesn't just say yes, he volunteers. When Michael possesses John, everything changes. Unlike Dean, who would have fought the archangel every step of the way, John surrenders completely. He becomes the perfect vessel because he believes in the mission. Michael doesn't have to suppress John's personality. John willingly steps aside. Now picture Michael wearing John Winchester's face, but with all the power of heaven behind him. He's not just strong, he's terrifyingly focused. John's military training combined with Michael's divine power creates a warrior unlike anything the world has seen. The showdown between Michael and Lucifer becomes something entirely different. In the original timeline, it was supposed to be brother against brother Dean and Sam destroying each other while the archangels fought. But now it's father against the forces of hell, with his sons watching from the sidelines. The battle takes place in the same field in Kansas, but the dynamics are completely different. Lucifer, still wearing Sam's friend Nick as a vessel, faces Michael in John's body. The fight is brutal and personal in ways the original never was. Michael John fights with military precision mixed with divine power. He uses tactics John learned in Vietnam, combined with abilities that can reshape reality. When he strikes, it's not just with overwhelming force, it's with strategic thinking that comes from decades of hunting experience. Lucifer tries his usual psychological warfare, taunting Michael about using John as a vessel. But it backfires because John wanted this. "You're wearing a broken man who said yes out of desperation," Lucifer sneers. "I'm wearing a soldier who volunteered for duty," Michael responds in John's voice. While their father battles the devil himself, Sam and Dean face their own crisis. They're watching their father fight the war they were supposed to fight. Sam feels guilty because he was supposed to be Lucifer's vessel. But he's clean, he's human, he's not strong enough to contain an archangel. Dean feels helpless because he said no to Michael, but now he's watching his father pay the price for his choice. The brothers realize they can't just watch. They start working together like never before, using everything John taught them about hunting to find another way to help. They're not the prophesied vessels anymore. They're just two brothers trying to save their father. When the dust settles, Michael wins, but the cost is enormous. John Winchester's body can't contain an archangel forever. Unlike the show where Sam pulls Dean out of Michael's control, here it's both brothers working together to save their father. The process nearly kills John, but it also proves something important. Family bonds are stronger than divine plans. John survives, but he's changed. He's seen the war from heaven's perspective, and it's left him different. Not broken, but humbled in ways he never was before. With the apocalypse over and Michael gone, the Winchester family has to rebuild. But they're not the same family they were before. John has to learn to be a father instead of a general. Dean has to adjust to not being the one who carries all the responsibility. Sam has to find his place in a world where he never became the boy king with demon blood. The monsters are still out there, but now they're facing three hunters who've literally been through hell and back. John brings military strategy, Dean brings innovation and questioning, Sam brings research and empathy. Together, they're more effective than they ever were apart. But the real change is in their relationships. John finally understands that his sons are not just soldiers in his war. They're people with their own choices to make. Dean learns that saying no to destiny doesn't always mean someone else has to pay the price. Sam discovers that staying human doesn't make him weak, it makes him necessary. This timeline creates a world where the Winchester family is actually functional. They argue, they disagree, but they're together. Other hunters start looking to them not just for help with monsters, but for hope that families can survive this life. Castile, who in the original timeline became like family to the Winchesters, now has to find his place with a complete family unit. Bobby Singer gets to see his surrogate family actually work together instead of constantly breaking apart. The show's message changes too. Instead of being about sacrifice and loss, it becomes about choice and family. John choosing to say yes to Michael isn't about giving up. It's about a father protecting his sons. Dean choosing to say no isn't about rebellion. It's about believing there's always another way. In the end, this timeline proves that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from breaking the family apart, but from keeping it together. The apocalypse still happens, the battles still rage, but the Winchesters face it all as a family. And that makes all the difference.